Hear me out. Buying a home is key to gaining generational wealth, and it's as competitive as ever. In today's video, I'm going to provide you a detailed breakdown in 6 steps on how to invest in real estate. Over the course of the past 8 years, I've purchased numerous properties, including 10 rental units, which I own and co-manage, and have sold 2 properties along the way. I've experienced the headaches that come with buying and selling firsthand, and wanted to make this detailed video to help you overcome some of the learning curves and to empower you with knowledge. Buying a home can be intimidating and scary, but if you hit the like button and subscribe, buying can be a little less scary. The first step is to find out how much of a home you could afford. You'd be doing this by speaking with the mortgage lender to get pre-approved. Personally, I suggest you always aim to have a mortgage, even if you have the money to buy a home in cash. This way you don't have too much money tied up in a property and can take advantage of other investment opportunities, such as investing in the stock market, which historically has brought a 7 to 10% annual return. Take Jay-Z and Beyonce, for example. They financed the home even though they could have purchased it in cash. Rates are so low, and even if the interest rate was 4%, they would have made a 3 to 6% return on their investment investing into the stock market, making them even more money. Speaking with the mortgage lender will allow you to get a better idea as to how much the bank will lend to you. Common things it will ask for will include your last 2 W-2s, most recent pay stubs, your bank account information, and your ID cards. After submitting these documents, the conversation will include a talk about your credit score, as this has the biggest impact on your interest rate the bank will provide to you. In other words, how much the bank will charge you to borrow money and how much you're approved to purchase. This is when you'll get your credit pulled. In case you're asking yourself, well, maybe I should work on my credit score before doing all of this work. And in some regards, you're right. If you're at a point where you like to buy a home, you should probably already know what your credit score is. When you speak with the mortgage lender, they'll be able to tell you what steps you can take to increase your credit score. Additionally, they'll be able to help you explore your mortgage options, such as a 30, 25, 20, 15, and 10-year term mortgages. If you choose a 30-year mortgage, the interest rate will be slightly higher compared to the other options, but the benefit is your monthly payment will be lower. Personally, I prefer the longer loan as it allows me to have a lower monthly payment and more cash on hand. It also provides the flexibility to pay it off earlier than 30 years. Making bi-monthly payments can significantly decrease the life of your loan if your mortgage lender allows. For example, if you have a $300,000 loan and just make bi-monthly payments, you save yourself 3 years and 9 months from your mortgage, or almost $26,000. Maybe your lender won't allow for making bi-monthly payments, but here's one other way to cut down the 30-year mortgage. Divide your monthly mortgage of $1,347 by the months in a year, and this is the amount you want to add to your monthly payment to pay it off 4 years earlier, saving yourself $28,000. You'll also be able to gain knowledge on programs and loans the lender may have to offer. For example, did you know there's a lending program by the name of Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, or NACA for short? They allow you to buy a home with no down payment, no closing costs, no fees, no requirement for perfect credit, and the interest rate provided is at or below market rates. There's also FHA loans, which allow for as low as a 3.5% down payment, and that's secured by the Federal Housing Authority. 203K loans, which allow you to rehab a property, and conventional loans as low as 3% down. My best piece of advice is to not be afraid to shop around. Think about it. You most likely didn't marry the first person you dated, and shopping around allows for leverage to see who has the lowest rates, lowest fees, and who you feel most comfortable working with. You should consider shopping around after you're under contract. Additionally, just because you may be approved up to a certain amount doesn't mean you have to take out the maximum loan. Many articles, including this one by SunTrust Bank, explain why you shouldn't spend no more than 30% of your gross monthly income on living expenses. After factoring in your debt, mortgage lenders look at your debt to income ratio and want it to be no more than 43%. This allows for you to not be tight on cash in case of an unexpected expense, or if the cost of heating your home increases, which we just saw over the course of the past 6 months. The second step you should take is continue to save money. Have a plan on where your down payment funds are going to come from, such as from a gift, savings account, stocks, or your 401k, where you could borrow up to $10,000. You'll want to consider not only your down payment when applicable, this can be anywhere between 3 to 25%, but also your closing costs, which are usually between 2 and 5%. For example, let's say you're a first-time homebuyer and want to buy a $250,000 single-family home and want to put down 3%. This would equal to $7,500 and a little under $8,300 in closing costs, or 3.3%. If this is an investment property you don't plan to live in, you'll need to put down at least 25%, which would be $62,500 on top of your closing costs, which will also be higher. These estimated numbers provided will most likely increase the more expensive the home is. In addition to these fees, you must also consider any overlapping fees, such as renting living expenses from the time you begin your home search up until you find a home and own it. There's also the thought of buying a new home and buying specific furniture and decor for your new space. This is strictly cosmetic compared to the inevitable repairs that your home investment may require. Maybe you find a near perfect home that has everything you ever wanted, but it may need a small repair to make it your dream home. Conversely, the property may already be in working order, but you prefer to make a large update and involve opening and knocking down walls. Let's face it, ignorance is bliss, and anytime you open up a wall, in my experience, it's led to there now being another problem to address and inevitably spending more money. The last reason to continue to save money is due to rising taxes. The reason this is important is because property taxes and insurance will be the things that can fluctuate and make your monthly payment increase. Chances are your property taxes will increase over a 3 to 5 year span, and they'll vary depending on where you buy your home. Pro tip, always appeal your property taxes. The third step is decide if you're going to use a real estate agent. Yes, technically it's possible you could buy a home without an agent, but it can take some time and cause a lot of headaches. For me, I struggle with negotiations, and for that alone, I use a real estate agent. But there are ways to find homes that are for sale using sites such as Zillow and Redfin. Technically, you don't need a real estate agent to make an offer on a home, but the drawback is that in a competitive market like we find ourselves today, without using an agent, you won't have access to off-market properties and may lack the relationships with agents to use when putting together a strong offer. My advice as a buyer is to use an agent since the seller will be paying for the realtor fees. In other words, it won't cost you any additional money to use one. Now, just because it won't cost you any money doesn't mean you shouldn't shop around. You want to ensure you have someone that has your best interest and you have someone there that you could trust. You can interview multiple realtors and decide to go with the one that best fits your needs and wants. If you're a first-time homebuyer, it may be a good idea to go with an experienced realtor. That is fine going the extra mile, or it's fine holding your hand through this home education process. The fourth step is to start searching for the right home in the right neighborhood. To be specific, I literally mean decide between a condominium, a single family home, townhome, or multi-unit property. It's important to talk with your lender in case you decide to switch between property types, as this will impact what you're approved for. Condominiums or condos are great options if your ideal neighborhood is a little out of reach, as they can be a little bit more affordable. They may provide shared amenities and provide you a peace of mind since your homeowners association or HOA will take care of maintenance to the building and common areas. So what's the catch? For one, there are monthly assessments which are added to the building's reserves. Think of reserves as the savings account for the building. These assessments lower your purchasing power, and while the monthly assessment tend to be the same every month, they can increase in the event that there's a big repair that needs to be completed and there aren't enough funds in the reserves, or your HOA prefers to not deplete the reserves. Additionally, while you can't pick your neighbors, you really can't pick the people who live in the building. In other words, not getting along with your neighbors will hit closer to home, as you will likely run into them or you'll use the same shared spaces. Let's say this happens and you choose to rent out your condo instead of selling. Theoretically, you could rent your property, in which case you may be restricted depending on the bylaws or rules your condo association has.
Dang it.
Okay, well, if they allow rentals, you could simply rent out your unit. The problem is that if you decide to eventually sell the condo, there may be challenges with selling it, as mortgage lenders are more picky about what percentage of owner-occupied units there are in the building, meaning a smaller buyer pool knocking at your door. There's also the bureaucracy of having repairs fixed and other rules that townhome owners would also understand. Single family homes do not have HOA dues and they don't have the rules required by condos or townhomes. On the bright side, your purchasing power will be higher, although single family homes tend to be more expensive than the latter. They allow homeowners more autonomy and more responsibility, meaning you take on the responsibility of understanding local ordinances regarding snow removal or landscaping requirements. You also don't have the safety net of having an HOA. So in other words, let's say the fence is damaged and you and only you are on the hook to repair or to replace it. But it also means if you want to paint the face of the building pink, you could do it. On to my personal favorite type of buildings, multi-units. For this sake, when I say multi-unit properties, I'm referring to 2 to 4 units, as anything over will require a commercial loan. Touching on the negatives, they're more expensive up front and to keep up to date. Instead of having just one kitchen to take care of, now you have 2 to 4 that you're responsible for. That means the same for water tanks, heating and cooling systems, toilets, appliances, and so much more. Not to mention screening and managing tenants. I will say, being a landlord, it's not for everyone and has its drawbacks. For example, if something like an appliance breaks, you're responsible. Depending on the tenant laws where your property is located, there's also the possibility of having a squatter or a person who unlawfully occupies a unit without paying rent living in one of your units. But if you screen your tenants using a credit, background, reference, and employer check, you minimize the possibility of this happening. Fortunately, I have yet to experience this. On to the positives. Owning a multi-unit allows you to maximize your leverage and increase your ROI, or return on investment. In other words, you could possibly house hack to the point where you can rent out the other units in your property and you can essentially live rent-free or make the mortgage payment significantly more affordable. This could also include renting out an unused parking space, or if you have an unoccupied room in your unit, renting that out too. Thinking about it further, investing in a duplex or more allows you to be approved for more home compared to the other buying options. 75% of the projected rents of the units you will not live in, they're factored into the approval amount, as the bank sees these projections as you being able to afford a higher mortgage. Furthermore, you'll be able to depreciate many of the expenses you put into your units that you rent. For example, you could depreciate the cost of a furnace over its lifespan, which is 27.5 years. If you have a clogged sink and pay to have it repaired, you can write off that expense the following tax year. These are just some of the examples of the pros and cons of the various property types you can purchase. Just a friendly reminder, you should always refer to your tax accountant for more guidance on write-offs your multi-unit property may be eligible for. From here, you'll want to decide on what neighborhood you want to purchase in. It's key to envision yourself living or owning the property for at least 5 years to make sure that the initial closing cost fees and future closing cost fees to sell your home are worth it. Think about it. What's important to you, such as being close to public transportation, restaurants, nightlife, schools, safety, walkability, proximity to shopping and grocery stores. On top of that, how important is it to you that your home quickly appreciates? Is the neighborhood going to change in the next few years into a place that you don't want to be in and into a place that you'd be happy to raise your family? All things to consider when making this big decision to not have buyer's regret. The fifth step is the actual fun part. Visit homes. This is where your dream can either become a reality or a complete nightmare. Fear not. Viewing homes doesn't have to be a nightmare. One piece of advice is to go in with the mentality that you'll likely be seeing many different homes, and each home you see will help you get closer to a better feel for what your actual needs are compared to your wants. Consider looking beyond the cosmetics, meaning things that are ugly but can be painted, repaired, replaced, or even renovated. Conversely, the home you view may have the potential to have larger renovations done, as other parts of the building are in really good condition. For example, a good condition brick home with solid bones, or a home that just had a big ticket repair done, such as a brand new roof, all new windows, new plumbing, or even new electrical. Arming yourself with a knowledgeable realtor can alleviate some of these learning curves to help you find the best fit for you. And once you do, you're at step 6, which is submit an offer and cross your fingers that your offer is accepted. Hopefully you hear a response within 1 to 2 business days. If you receive a denial or a counter, you can either deny it or submit a counter back. If your deal is accepted, you will provide something called earnest money to show in good faith that you're serious about buying the property. Additionally, you'll have an inspection done on the property where your inspector will search for red flags or items that you may want to repair or to replace. Keep in mind that even in a brand new home, you won't have a perfect inspection. Something will come up. Once the inspection is completed, you could request repairs or credits. Keep in mind, in situations where there are multiple offers, the seller may have the leverage to not provide any repairs or credits. At that point, you could decide if you'd like to proceed with purchasing the home or moving on to other options. From here, there is an appraiser hired by the bank, and that appraiser will provide a professional opinion on what the home is worth. The bank uses this to ensure that the home appraises for the purchase price, basically to cover their end in case there's a foreclosure on the property and it needs to be sold to cover their losses. If not appraised, you can pay the difference up to what the home appraised for, request the seller to lower the price, or move on. Best case scenario, the home appraises and you eventually get that glorious notice that you're clear to close. Fast forward to the closing table, where you'll be signing a lot of documents, and once you sign all of the home documents, congratulations, you're now a homeowner. From personal experience, there is never a perfect process in home buying, and sometimes you'll have stressful situations, but hopefully after watching this video, you'll feel more confident going through this 6-step process to buy your home. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Do you feel more confident to purchase a home now? Are you looking to buy in the future? If you like this video, you'll likely enjoy this one on the screen. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing and joining the community. Until next time, take care.